High Coordinator the Sarah looked at the holographic display with growing fear. Red dots covered the star map, each one showing a world that no longer existed. The Devourers had come from beyond the galaxy's edge, and nothing could stop them. The creatures were not alive in any way the Zelani understood life. They were machines, but machines that could think and learn and grow. Each time the Zelani tried to fight them, the metal beasts adapted. Weapons that worked once never worked again. How many ships do we have left? Thessa asked her aide, a young Zelani named Corin, whose scales had turned pale blue with stress. 43 battle cruisers, my lady. 112 support vessels. Corin's voice shook as he spoke. The Devourers destroyed our shipyards at Velter yesterday. They are learning our ship designs faster than we can build new ones. The Sarah closed her large, dark eyes. The Zelani had ruled this part of space for 3,000 years. They were a peaceful people who loved art, music, and the beauty of the stars. War was something they read about in old histories, not something they lived through. The door to the command chamber opened and General Val walked in. His normally bright green scales looked dull, and his tall frame seemed bent with exhaustion. The outer colonies are gone, he said without greeting. Devourers consumed everything, not just the people or the buildings. They took apart the planets themselves, piece by piece, to build more of their kind. Sarah felt her heart sink. The Zelani had two hearts, and right now both of them felt like they were breaking. What about the Galactic Peace Alliance? Did they respond to our calls for help? General Valak shook his head. Hegemony says they are considering our request. The Altarian Republic wants to send negotiators to talk with the Devourers. The Crystal World say this is outside their territory. Talk with them. Tara could not believe what she was hearing. These things destroy everything they touch. There is no talking with them. She walked to the great window that looked out into space far away. She could see the lights of Devourer ships moving toward their current position. Soon they would have to run again. They had been running for months. My lady, Corvin said quietly, there is one more option. Thea turned to look at him. What option? The ancient emergency beacon. The one from the old archives. It was designed to send a distress call to any ship in the galaxy that could receive it. General Val frowned. That system is thousands of years old. We do not even know if it still works. It is better than doing nothing, the Sarah said. She was desperate now. Her people were dying, and no one in the civilized galaxy seemed willing to help them. Activate it. Send a message to anyone who will listen. Corin's fingers moved quickly over the control panel. The beacon was buried deep in the ship's systems, a relic from a time when the galaxy was younger and more dangerous. As he worked, warning lights began flashing. My lady, the beacon is very powerful, but I cannot control where the signal goes. It will broadcast in all directions. Send it everywhere. The Sarah said, tell them we are the Zelani Confederation. Tell them we face extinction. Tell them we need help immediately. The beacon activated with a deep thrumming sound that shook the entire ship. Energy poured out from their vessel carrying the Sarah's desperate message across the galaxy. The signal was strong enough to reach the farthest stars, but it was also old and unpredictable. Unknown to the Zelani, their message was racing toward a part of space they had never explored the galactic charts, marked that region as empty, lifeless. It was so far from the civilized world that most people forgot it existed. The signal traveled for days, growing weaker but still carrying its urgent plea. It passed by dead worlds and empty space until finally it reached a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. The planet was marked in the old charts as a class in Deathworld, a place so dangerous that nothing intelligent could possibly live there. The signal was caught by a collection of radio telescopes in a place called New Mexico. Dr. Sarah Chen was working the night shift when her computer started screaming with alerts. "That's impossible," she whispered as she looked at the data streaming across her screens. The signal was clearly artificial, clearly intelligent, and clearly not from Earth. Sarah called her supervisor, then her supervisor called his supervisor, and soon phones were ringing in government buildings around the world. The message was translated. Within hours, it spoke of a peaceful people facing extinction from machines that could not be stopped, but there was something else in the signal, something that made the humans sit up and take notice. The message included detailed information about these devourers, technical specifications that showed exactly what kind of enemy the Zelani were fighting. To the Zelani, the devourers were an unstoppable force that adapted to any weapon. To the humans, reading the reports, they looked like a challenging engineering problem. Within 24 hours, emergency meetings were being held in every major capital on Earth. Presidents and prime ministers who had been enemies for decades suddenly found themselves working together. The message from space had united humanity in a way that nothing else ever had. "These aliens are getting wiped out," said General Morrison, pointing at the holographic display showing devourer tactical data. "Their weapons are too sophisticated. These machines are learning to counter high-tech energy weapons and adaptive shields. What do you suggest?" asked President Jiang. General Morrison smiled grimly. "We hit them with stuff they've never seen before: kinetic weapons, nuclear warheads, good old-fashioned explosives. Let's see how well they adapt to a chunk of tungsten moving at 20% of light speed." The decision was made quickly. Humanity would respond to the alien distress call with everything they had. It would be the largest military operation in human history, and possibly the last if they failed. Shipyards that had been building cargo vessels were retold to construct warships, weapons that had been designed to fight other humans were modified to work in space. Scientists who had spent their careers studying peaceful applications of technology suddenly found themselves designing instruments of war. The human fleet began gathering at the edge of the solar system, 500 ships, each one designed by a species that had learned to fight before they learned to walk upright. The ships were ugly compared to the elegant vessels of the galactic civilization, but they were built for one purpose: winning wars. Admiral Marcus Rivera stood on the bridge of the flagship UES Retribution and looked out at the assembled fleet. Behind him, Earth continued its preparations for war. Factories worked around the clock. Soldiers trained for combat in zero gravity. Scientists developed new weapons based on the technical data the Zelani had unknowingly provided. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we've received confirmation from all fleet commanders. We're ready to depart." Rivera nodded. Somewhere across the Galaxy, an alien species, was dying. Because they had never learned how to fight a real war, they were about to discover that humans had never learned how to fight any other kind. Take us out, Rivera ordered. It's time to show the galaxy what a Death World species can do. The human fleet engaged there, faster than light drives, and disappeared into the darkness between stars, racing toward a destiny that would change the galaxy forever. Admiral Marcus Rivera walked slowly through the command deck of the UES Retribution, looking at the faces of his crew. They were young and old, men and women from every nation on Earth. 3 months ago, these people had been enemies. Now they worked together like they had trained their whole lives for this moment. Admiral called Captain Sarah Kim from the tactical station. We're receiving final reports from all fleet commanders. The Chinese battle group is ready. The European fleet is in position. The African Union ships have completed their weapon checks. Rivera nodded and moved to the main display screen. 500 human warships filled the view, stretched across several million km of space. Each ship was different, built by different nations with different ideas about how to fight wars. But they all shared one thing: they were designed by humans, and humans had been perfecting the art of killing each other for thousands of years. Sir said Lieutenant Commander Johnson, the fleet's intelligence officer. We've finished analyzing the alien data. The Zelani have been fighting these Devourers for 8 months. They've lost 90% of their territory. Rivera studied the tactical information on his screen. The Devourers were impressive machines, able to learn from each battle and adapt their defenses. They had started as simple constructs, but each encounter with Zelani weapons had made them smarter and stronger. Their problem is that they're too civilized, Rivera said to his staff. Look at these battle reports. The Zelani try to minimize casualties. They retreat when they start taking heavy losses. They use precise weapons that target specific systems. Sir, Captain Kim looked confused. They're fighting like they expect their enemy to surrender, Rhea explained. These machines don't surrender. They don't get tired. They don't feel fear. The only way to stop them is to destroy every single one. Colonel Martinez from the Marine Division stepped forward. Admiral, I've been studying the Zelani ship designs. They're beautiful, but they're not built for war. Their ships are made for exploration and trade. Their weapons are designed to disable, not destroy. Rivera understood. Humanity had never had that luxury. Earth was a planet where everything tried to kill you, from the weather to the animals to other humans. Every human weapon was designed with one goal: making the enemy completely unable to fight back. Dr. Patel, Rivera called to the science officer. What's your assessment of Devourer technology? Dr. Patel pulled up a holographic display showing the enemy machines. They're adaptive, sir, but in a limited way. They learn to counter energy weapons by developing better shields. They learn to avoid kinetic weapons by improving their movement patterns, but their learning is based on previous encounters, and we're about to give them encounters they've never had before, Rivera said with a grim smile. The communication system crackled too. Life, Admiral Rivera, this is General Thompson at Fleet Command. You are authorized to engage the enemy with extreme prejudice. Rules of engagement are simple: save the aliens, destroy everything else, Understood command. Rivera replied, what about communication? With the Zelani, negative, go in dark. And assess the situation first. We don't know how these aliens will react to meeting humans. For all we know, they might think we're another enemy species. Rivera could understand that concern. Humans didn't look like the peaceful aliens in science fiction movies. They were predators with forward-facing eyes and teeth designed for tearing meat. Their ships reflected this nature. Angular, armored, covered with weapon systems. All ship, this is Admiral Rivera, he announced over the fleet communication channel. In 6 hours we will engage an enemy that has destroyed worlds and killed billions of aliens. These devourers have adapted to fight a civilized enemy they have never fought. Humans, he paused, looking out at the fleet assembled around him, ships from nations that had been at war just years before now flew in formation, united by a common purpose. Remember, we are not just fighting for Earth anymore. We are fighting for an alien species that called for help. We are fighting to show the galaxy what humanity can do when we work together. Every ship in this fleet represents the best of human technology and human spirit. Captain Kim brought up the navigation display. Sir, we have the coordinates of the Zelani distress signal. The journey will take us 3 days. At maximum jump speed, Dr. Akafer. Rivera called to the xenobiology expert. What should we expect from the aliens? Dr. Akafer consulted her tablet, based on their transmission patterns and language structure. The Zelani appear to be a peaceful species. They use polite forms of communication even in their military channels. Their ship design suggests they value beauty and efficiency over pure function, and they devourers pure machine intelligence. Sir, no emotions, no fear, no mercy. They exist only to consume and replicate. But sir, Dr. Akepper looked up from her tablet. I think they've made a mistake. How so? They've learned to fight Zelani, who try to minimize damage and avoid civilian casualties. They've learned to fight an enemy that retreats when losses become too high. They've never fought an enemy that will sacrifice everything to win. Rivera understood. The devourers had adapted to fight a civilized species. They were about to encounter humans who had crawled out of the most dangerous planet in the galaxy and learned to survive by being more dangerous than anything else. Admiral called the navigation officer. All ships report ready for jump. Rhea took one last look at Earth through the main viewer. The blue planet looked peaceful from this distance, but he knew better. That beautiful world had shaped humanity into the perfect enemy for the devourers. Intelligent, adaptable, and absolutely ruthless when threatened. Fleet command, this is Admiral Rivera. Human fleet departing for alien space. We will make contact in 72 hours. Godspeed, Admiral. Bring our new alien friends home safe. Rivera smiled. The Zelani had called for help from the civilized galaxy and been ignored. They had accidentally called for help from the univilized part of the galaxy. Instead, they were about to learn the difference. All ships engaged jump drives, maximum speed to the rally point. Let's go save some aliens. The human fleet disappeared into hyperspace. 500 warships carrying the hopes of two species toward a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy. Behind them, Earth continued its preparations for a war that might determine the survival of all intelligent life in the deep space. Monitoring station, scientists watched. The readings from the alien distress signal it was getting weaker, which meant the Zelani were losing their fight. The humans would arrive just in time, or they would arrive to find only machines feeding on the remains of a dead civilization. Either way, the Devourers were about to meet an enemy unlike anything they had ever encountered, a species that had learned to fight wars of extinction and win them. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Thessera system like thunder breaking across a quiet sky. Admiral Rivera stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching as his sensors painted a picture of the battle happening near the system's inner planets. "My God," whispered Captain Kim, staring at the tactical display. "There are thousands of them." Devourer fleet filled the space around the fourth planet like a swarm of angry insects. Each machine was the size of a human destroyer, black metal shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved in perfect coordination, flowing around the defending Zelani ships like water around rocks. "Sir," called Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station, "I'm reading 47 Zelani vessels. They're retreating toward the inner system, but the Devourers are cutting off their escape routes." Rivera watched the battle unfold. On his screens, the Zelani ships were beautiful, their hulls made of what looked like living crystal that caught and refracted the light of the local star. They moved with grace like dancers performing in the void of space, but they were losing, Admiral Dr. Patel said. From her science station, the Zelani weapons are having minimal effect. They're using some kind of energy beam that's designed to disable rather than destroy. The Devourers adapt to each hit and become more resistant, and the Devourer weapons, devastating, sir. They're using focused gravity waves that tear ships apart at the molecular level. Very efficient, very deadly, Rivera nodded grimly. The Zelani were fighting a civilized war against an enemy that didn't understand civilization. It was like bringing a sword to a gunfight, except the enemy kept getting better at avoiding swords. "Fleet positions," he asked. "All ships in formation, sir." Captain Kim reported, "We're currently 2 million km from the battle zone. The enemy hasn't detected us yet." Rivera looked at the display showing both fleets. The Zelani ships were elegant and graceful, moving like living things through space. The Devourer ships were angular and efficient, looking like tools designed for a single purpose, and the human ships looked like exactly what they were, weapons built by a species that had learned to fight before they learned to fly. They were covered in armor plating, bristling with weapon systems designed to take punishment and keep fighting. Next to the beautiful Zelani vessels, they looked crude and brutal. "Sir," called Commander Johnson from intelligence, "we're intercepting Zelani communications. The translation software is working, but the language is very formal, very polite. Even in the middle of a battle, they're using honorific titles and respectful greetings." "What are they saying?" "The fleet commander is requesting permission to retreat to the third planet. She's apologizing for the casualties and asking for forgiveness from her crew for leading them into danger." Rivera shook his head. These aliens were too civilized for their own good. In the middle of a fight for survival, they were still being polite to each other. Admiral Dr. Acapur said urgently, "The Devourers are moving to surround the Zelani fleet. If they complete that maneuver, the aliens will be trapped. Rivera had seen enough. All ships. This is Admiral Rivera. Target the Devourer. Fleet only. I repeat, engage only the black ships. The crystal ships are friendlies, weapons free. The human fleet opened fire, rail guns mounted on. The heavy cruisers hurled tungsten projectiles at 20% of light speed. Nuclear-tipped missiles streaked across the void, their drives burning bright. Against the darkness of space, particle beam weapons designed to crack asteroids lanced out with deadly precision. Effect on the Devourer fleet was immediate and devastating. Ships that had adapted to resist Zelani energy weapons found themselves facing solid metal traveling at relativistic speeds. Their advanced shields designed to deflect coherent energy were useless against simple kinetic force. The first volley from the human fleet destroyed 30 Devourer ships outright. The machines tried to adapt, changing their formation and adjusting their defensive systems. But the humans were already firing again. With different weapons, target destroyed, Captain Kim announced as another group of Devourers vanished. Nuclear fire, sir, they're trying to adapt to our weapons, but we're using too many different types. Every time they adjust to one system, we hit them with something else. Rivera smiled. This was exactly what humans were good at. Overwhelming an enemy with variety and volume. The Zelani fought with elegant precision. The Devourers fought with adaptive efficiency. Humans fought with chaos and overwhelming force. On the Zelani flagship, High Coordinator Thessera watched in shock as the unknown fleet tore through the Devourers like paper. Her aide Corin stared at the tactical display with his mouth open. Who are they? Corin whispered. Those ships, they don't match any known design in the galactic database. The Sarah studied the new arrivals. Their ships were ugly by Zelani standards, all sharp angles and rough surfaces, but they were destroying the Devourers with frightening efficiency. Each human vessel seemed to carry more weapons than an entire Zelani battle group. Admiral, her fleet commander, reported, the unknown ships are using projectile weapons and nuclear devices. I've never seen anything like it. They're fighting like barbarians. Effective barbarians, Thessa corrected. Patch me through to their fleet commander. It took several minutes to establish communication. The unknown ships were using primitive radio signals instead of the elegant quantum entanglement channels that civilized species preferred. When the connection finally opened, Thessera found herself looking at the bridge of an alien ship. The creatures on the screen were bipedal, roughly the same size as Zelani, but there the similarities ended. They had forward-facing eyes like predators, and their teeth were clearly designed for eating meat. Their skin came in different colors, and they had hair growing from their heads in various patterns. The one who seemed to be in command stepped forward. He was wearing what looked like military armor, and his face bore several scars. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough. This is Admiral Rivera of the Human Federation Fleet. We received your distress signal. Are you the Zelani? Thessera struggled to find words. These beings looked like something from a nightmare, but they had just saved her people. Yes, I am High Coordinator Thessar of the Zelani Confederation. We sent a call for help to the Galactic Peace Alliance. Never heard of them, Rivera said bluntly. We got your message on Earth. Figured you could use some help. Earth, the Sarah felt her heart skip. Beat, but that's in the death world. Sector, nothing civilized can live. There, she saw what might have been a smile across the alien's scarred face. Well, that depends on your definition of civilized. Right now we need to finish cleaning up these devourers. Can your ship stay clear while we work? Thessa looked at her tactical display. The human fleet was systematically destroying the remaining devourers with methods that seemed completely insane by galactic standards. They were using nuclear weapons in space, firing solid projectiles at incredible speeds and employing tactics that no civilized species would ever consider, but it was working for the first time in months. The devourers were losing, yes. The Sarah said quietly, we will remain clear and thank you. The transmission ended and the Sarah slumped in her command chair. Her people were safe, saved by creatures from a world so dangerous that the galaxy had written it off as uninhabitable. She wondered what other surprises these humans might bring to the civilized galaxy. On the human flagship, Admiral Rivera watched as the last devourer ship exploded under concentrated fire from 3 heavy cruisers. Sir, Captain Kim reported. All enemy contacts destroyed, no human casualties. The Zelani fleet is safe. Rivera nodded. The first battle was over, but he suspected this was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to learn that the most dangerous predators in the universe had just left their planet for the first time, and they were very good at making friends. 3 hours after the battle ended, Admiral Rivera stood in the conference room aboard the UES Prometheus, humanity's first diplomatic vessel. Across from him sat Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's leading expert on xenolinguistics, and Captain James Foster, who had volunteered to lead the first contact mission. Admiral Dr. Vasquez said, reviewing her tablet. We've been monitoring Zelani communication since the battle. Their language is fascinating. They use formal honorifics even in casual conversation. And they seem to apologize for everything. That matches what we observed during the fighting, Rivera replied. They were asking permission to retreat and apologizing to their own crews for being in danger. These are not a warrior people. Captain Foster looked out the viewport at the Zelani fleet. The crystal ships hung in space like beautiful sculptures, their hulls catching and reflecting the light from the system star. Sir, how do we approach this? Standard first contact protocols assume we're meeting an unknown species. These aliens already know we exist, and they think we come from a planet that should be uninhabitable, Rivera added. According to their databases, Earth is classified as a Class 2 death world. That's the highest danger rating in their system. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her translation work. Sir, I've been analyzing their reaction to our weapons. The Zelani seemed genuinely shocked that we use nuclear devices and kinetic projectiles. Their own weapons are designed to disable enemy ships without killing the crews, even against machines. Apparently, so their entire military doctrine is based on the idea that warfare should be as humane as possible. They literally cannot understand why we would build weapons designed to completely destroy an enemy. Rivera sat down heavily in his chair. These aliens were so civilized that they fought wars politely. No wonder they were losing to the devourers. Dr. Vasquez, can you establish communication with their flagship? Yes, sir, I've created a basic translation protocol. It's not perfect, but it should allow for simple conversation. Do it, Captain. Foster, you're with me. Let's go meet our new alien friends. The view screen activated, showing the bridge of the Zelani flagship. High Coordinator. The Sarah sat in an elegant chair that seemed to be grown rather than built. Her skin was covered in small iridescent scales that shifted from blue to green. In the light, her large dark eyes showed intelligence and curiosity, but also fear. Greetings, High Coordinator, Rivera said, trying to keep his voice gentle. I am Admiral Marcus Rivera, commander of the Human Rescue Fleet. This is Captain Foster and Dr. Vasquez. The Sarah inclined her head in what was clearly a formal bow. Honored Admiral Rivera, I am deeply grateful for your assistance. May I ask, are you truly from the world called Earth? We are. Rivera confirmed. We received your distress signal 3 days ago. We came as quickly as we could, but Earth is Thera. Paused, clearly struggling with the concept. Our records show that Earth is a class to Athen Death World. The atmospheric composition alone should be lethal to intelligent life. The gravity is too strong, the radiation levels too high, the weather patterns too violent. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. High Coordinator, perhaps we have different ideas about what makes a world habitable. Could you tell us about your home world? And GT, Zelanos is a garden world, the Sarah replied. And GT, stable climate, gentle weather, peaceful wildlife. The most dangerous creature on our planet is the grass tiger, and it only weighs 30 kg. Captain Foster tried not to smile. On Earth, a 30 kg predator would barely qualify as a large dog. High Coordinator, the largest predator on Earth weighs over 500 kg and can run at 60 km/h. The Sarah's scales turned pale. That is impossible. No intelligent species could evolve alongside such monsters. Actually, Dr. Vasquez said, we think growing up with those monsters is what made us intelligent. We had to learn to cooperate and use tools just to survive. Rivera decided to change the subject before they scared the aliens too badly. High Coordinator, we need to discuss the Devourer threat. Our intelligence suggests this was just one fleet. There may be more. You are correct, Admiral, the Sura said, her scales returning to their normal blue-green color. Our scouts report at least 12 more Devourer fleets moving through this sector. They have consumed 17 of our worlds and show no signs of slowing down. Have you contacted other species for help? We sent requests to the Galactic Peace Alliance, the Hegemony, and the Crystal Worlds Federation. They all promised to consider our situation, but none have sent military aid. Captain Foster frowned. Why not? Because warfare on this scale has not occurred in our region of space for over 2,000 years. Thessa explained. Most civilized species have limited military capabilities. We are primarily explorers, traders, and artists. What about the species that do have military forces? The warrior races exist, but they are considered barbaric by galactic standards. Most civilized worlds refuse to associate with them. Rivera was beginning to understand the problem. The galaxy had become so peaceful that it had forgotten how to fight real wars. When a genuine threat appeared, they had no idea how to respond. High Coordinator, he said, we would like to establish formal Diplomatic relations between humanity and the Zelani Confederation. We are willing to help you fight the Devourers, but we need to understand the full scope of the threat. I would welcome such an alliance, the Sarah replied, but I must warn you, Admiral, the galactic community will not understand your methods, the way you destroyed the Devourer fleet. It was effective, but it was also terrifying. Terrifying how? You used nuclear weapons as standard armament. You fired projectiles that could destroy planets. Your tactics showed no concern for minimizing casualties or preserving enemy equipment for study. By galactic standards, your warfare methods are considered barbaric. Dr. Vasquez looked at Rivera. This was going to be a problem. Humanity would be seen as savage by the very people they were trying to help. High Coordinator, Rivera said carefully, we understand that our methods may seem extreme, but we come from a world where survival requires extreme measures. We have learned that sometimes the only way to preserve life is to be willing to take it. I am beginning to understand this, the Sarah replied, but you should know that your arrival will change everything. The galaxy has been peaceful because it has been weak. If humanity joins the galactic community, that peace may end. Not necessarily, Captain Foster said. On Earth we've learned that peace is only possible when good people are strong enough to protect it from those who would destroy it. The Sarah considered this. You believe that strength prevents war rather than causing it. When the strong protect the weak? Yes, Rivera said. We're not conquerors, High Coordinator. We're protectors, but we protect by being more dangerous than the things that threaten innocent people. The Devourers have never faced an enemy like humanity. Thesser amused. They learned to counter sophisticated weapons and elegant tactics, but your weapons are not sophisticated. They are simply overwhelming. Exactly, Dr. Vasquez said. Humans learn to survive by being unpredictable and using overwhelming force. We're not smarter than these machines, but we're more chaotic. I would like to propose an exchange, the Sarah said after a moment. Human military advisors could help us develop more effective tactics. In return, we could share our technology and introduce you to the galactic community. That sounds reasonable, Rivera agreed, but first we need to deal with those other Devourer fleets. How many ships do you estimate they have in total? Our best intelligence suggests approximately 50,000 vessels. The human officers exchanged glances. That was a lot of ships even for Earth's military. High Coordinator, Rivera said, we're going to need reinforcements from Earth, and we're going to need to move fast before the Devourers adapt to our tactics. I understand, Admiral, but I should warn you about something else. What's that? The galactic community will want to meet with humanity when they learn that a Deathworld species has developed interstellar travel and military technology. They will either want to study you or control you. Rivera smiled grimly. Let them try, High Coordinator. Humanity has been dealing with bullies for its entire history. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you threaten people under human protection. The first diplomatic contact between humanity and the Zelani had gone better than anyone expected, but both species knew this was just the beginning of a relationship that would change the galaxy forever. 6 months after first contact, Admiral Rivera stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the first joint human facility ever built. Through the massive viewport he could see ships from both species working together in space. Human engineers in bulky armor suits worked alongside Zelani technicians whose environmental suits looked more like works of art. Admiral, said Captain Foster, approaching with a tablet full of reports. The Galactic Council has finally agreed to meet with our delegation. They want to discuss humanity's role in the galaxy. Rivera nodded but didn't look away from the viewport. In the distance, a human-heavy cruiser was being retrofitted with Zelani shield technology, while a Zelani science vessel received human armor plating. The two technologies shouldn't have worked together, but somehow they did. Any word from the Devourer front? General Martinez reports complete success in the Velter system. The machines tried to adapt to our new hybrid weapons, but they can't keep up with the rate of innovation. We're not just using human tactics anymore. We're using human creativity combined with Zelani precision. Rivera smiled. The partnership between the two species had exceeded everyone's expectations. Human military doctrine provided the aggressive strategies needed to defeat the Devourers, while Zelani technology offered elegant solutions to complex problems. Together they were unstoppable. The door to the observation deck opened and High Coordinator Thea entered. Over the past month she had become more than an alien ally. She was a friend. Her scales had brightened to a healthy blue-green, and she moved with confidence rather than the fear Rivera had first seen in her. Admiral, she said, approaching the viewport, I have interesting news from the Council meeting. Good news or bad news? Both. The Sarah replied. The good news is that they acknowledge humanity's right to exist and travel in galactic space. Bad news is that they want to place restrictions on human military technology. Captain Foster looked up from his tablet. What kind of restrictions? They want humans to limit nuclear weapons to defensive use only. They want all human ships to carry Galactic Peace Authority observers. And they want humanity to agree to use only proportional force in military conflicts. Rivera turned away from the viewport. In other words, they want us to fight like they do. Essentially, yes. The Sarah confirmed. The Council is uncomfortable with human tactical methods. They believe that unrestricted human warfare could destabilize the entire galaxy. They might be right. Foster said quietly, we've developed weapons in the last 6 months that could crack planets. If we ever turn those weapons on populated worlds, we won't. Rivera said firmly, humans don't fight wars against civilians. We fight wars against enemies who threaten civilians. I know that, Foster replied, but the Council doesn't know that. To them we look like barbarians with nuclear weapons. The Sarah moved to stand beside Rivera at the viewport. There is something else, Admiral. The Council has received reports from other sectors of the galaxy. It seems that humanity is not the only Death World species to achieve interstellar travel. Rivera felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? 3 other species from Class X or higher Death Worlds have made contact with the galactic community in the past year. The Council believes this is not a coincidence. You think something is driving Death World species to develop space travel? I think they said carefully that the galaxy is changing. The age of peaceful exploration may be ending. Species that learn to survive on the most dangerous worlds are now reaching for the stars. Rivera considered this. If humanity wasn't alone among the death world species, that changed everything. Are these other species hostile? Unknown. The Council has classified all information about them, but Admiral, I think we need to prepare for the possibility that humanity may not be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Captain Foster joined them at the viewport. Sir, there's something else. Our deep space sensors have detected unusual activity beyond the galactic rim. Long-range probes suggest massive energy signatures moving in our direction. Devourers. No, sir, these signatures are different, bigger, and they're not machine-based. Rivera felt pieces of a larger puzzle clicking into place. First, the Devourers had appeared from beyond the galaxy. Now other unknown entities were approaching from the same direction, and Deathworld species were suddenly developing space travel across the galaxy. Thesora, he said quietly, I think your people's distress call may have done more than just bring humanity into space. I think it may have announced to something out there that the galaxy has intelligent life worth taking. Tassara's scale shifted to a worried pale blue. You believe that Devourers were scouts? I believe that Devourers were the first wave, Rivera replied. Something bigger is coming, and somehow the galaxy knows it. That's why Deathworld species are suddenly reaching for space. Evolution is preparing the galaxy for war. The communication system crackled to life. Admiral Rivera to the command center. Priority Alpha message from Earth. Command. Rivera sighed. This can't be good news. He turned to Foster and they. Thasura, come on, let's see what Earth wants. The command center was a fusion of human and Zelani design. Angular human computer systems were integrated with flowing Zelani interfaces, creating a workspace that was both functional and beautiful. Dr. Vasquez was waiting for them with a grim expression. Admiral, she said without preamble, Earth has been monitoring transmissions from the Galactic Council. They know about the restrictions the Council wants to place on humanity, and the President has sent a message. Humanity will not accept limitations on our defensive capabilities, especially if there are larger threats approaching the galaxy. Rivera had expected this response. Earth had spent its entire history fighting for survival. They weren't about to give up their weapons just to make aliens feel comfortable. Dr. Vasquez, he said, prepare a message for the Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity is willing to work within galactic law, but we will not disarm in the face of unknown threats. Sir, Captain Foster said that's essentially a declaration of independence from galactic authority. Yes, it is, Rivera replied. This will the Zelani support us. Thea considered. For a moment, Admiral, 6 months ago my people were facing extinction. Today we are stronger than we have ever been. The Zelani Confederation will stand with humanity, even if it means conflict with the Council. The Council abandoned us when we needed help, Thara said firmly. Humanity came to our aid when no one else would. Our loyalty is clear. Dr. Vasquez was typing rapidly on her console. Admiral, I'm also receiving reports from our exploration fleet. We've made contact with 17 other species in the past month. Most of them are peaceful traders and researchers, but 3 have specifically requested military alliances with humanity. They want our protection. They want to learn How to fight, Dr. Vasquez clarified. Word is spreading about how humans defeated the Devourers, species that have been defenseless for millennia, are suddenly interested in military technology. Rivera looked around the command center, taking in the mixture of human and alien technology, the crew members from different worlds working together. The star charts showing new alliances forming across the galaxy. Tassera, he said, I think we're looking at the birth of a new galactic order. The age of peaceful exploration is ending. The age of defended civilization is beginning. And humanity will lead this new age. Humanity will protect this new age. Rivera corrected, we're not conquerors. We're guardians, but we're guardians who understand that sometimes the only way to protect peace is to be ready for war. The communication system activated. Again, Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from the deep space monitoring station. The unknown contacts beyond the galactic rim have changed course. They're heading directly for inhabited space. Rivera looked at the then at his human crew. How long until they arrive? Estimated time of arrival 18 months. Then we have 18 months to prepare the galaxy for whatever's coming. Rivera said to Sarah, it looks like the real war is just beginning. Outside the viewport, human and Zalani ships continued their joint patrols, protecting a galaxy that was finally learning the difference between peace through weakness and peace through strength. The age of the Deathworlders had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the depth of space, something vast and hungry moved toward the lights of civilization, unaware that the soft, defenseless species it had expected to find had just gained some very dangerous protectors. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you threaten people under human protection, and the universe was about to learn why Earth was classified as a death world.